My name is Karen Schwartz. My son, Reed Michael Schwartz.
My daughter is Joelle Merla Savis.
He passed away on December 20th, 2021 from ingesting cocaine laced with fentanyl.
Poisoning of fentanyl.
She died from fentanyl poisoning.
A deadly dose, equivalent to the weight of just a couple grains of sand, of salt or sand. It's just that small of an amount. That's all it took to take the lives of those children those mothers are speaking about. We've talked plenty about fentanyl on this show already, especially regarding the child that died in the Bronx. It's really poured some gasoline on the fire of an already raging opioid epidemic.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers are staggering. In 2021, nearly 2,700 New York City residents died of an overdose. 80% of those deaths involved fentanyl. And then, as you mentioned, Shirley, we've been talking about that one-year-old little boy at that Bronx daycare. His death attributed to fentanyl exposure at his daycare. So this is, this is not one where you tune out and think, I'm not a drug user, I don't hang with people that do that. This could potentially impact everyone, which is the key.
And if you think it's not a part of your life, I'm surprised by how it is a part of all of our lives. So all of this, part of the reasoning behind Mayor Adams' decision to host a national two-day summit on the crisis. Now, we're in day 2, and we're joined by investigative reporter Dan Krauth, who's been covering the crisis. Dan, nice to see you on this. And I love this conversation because so many of us will say, oh, we're not a part of this drug world or whatever. It's not just that.
It's not just that. This is the first story I've ever done that I made my family watch. It was required appointment television, especially with my nephews who are 14 years old, because there's no such thing as safe experimentation. And we heard from those mothers speaking that off the top of this segment. That was the hardest day I've had in 20 years of reporting. Sitting in a room with 5 mothers who all lost a loved one over the last year to a fentanyl overdose. And a lot of them didn't know that their children were using, and a lot of the kids didn't know that they were taking fentanyl.
That's what I don't understand, and when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, why would the drug dealers want to put fentanyl in the product and potentially kill their customer? Or, you know what I mean? I don't understand that.
That's the #1 question people ask me, and it's pretty simple. It's basically a business. Most of our drugs in the tri-state come from 2 cartels in Mexico. They're lacing the fentanyl in Mexico, and also when it gets shipped here, they're putting more fentanyl inside of it because it's cheaper, it's more addictive. So they literally do not care who's dying, but they're getting that many more people addicted to this drug. Keep coming back for more. In fact, someone's getting sentenced tomorrow for killing 3 people on one night. They thought they were buying cocaine. It was a weak batch of cocaine. So in order to save it, he laced it with fentanyl, and they all died within minutes of ingesting it.
Wow. So it sounds like they went from heroin to fentanyl, because fentanyl is now the new, easier, cheaper drug. And you mentioned something, regular drugs like Percocet, drugs that you think are the real deal. They're getting a lot of these off the market. They're fake. They're laced.
They're fake, they're laced, and there could be hot spots of it in it. So there's no quality control when it comes to this. It's in marijuana, it's in Percocet, it's in oxycodone, and we're talking about, everyone has that stage of their life so they want to experiment. And it's just not safe anymore. And we got behind-the-scenes access into the DEA drug lab. They let us inside, and that's basically a facility where the drugs that are confiscated from 10 different states go into this building. They're running out of space. And they showed us just how much can be deadly. Take a look.
This is 2 milligrams of what would be considered a lethal dose of fentanyl.
It looks like a little bit of sugar.
It's exactly all it looks like. It doesn't take much at all.
That is
so that tiny amount of fentanyl can be deadly.
Correct. This fentanyl is in everything now. It's in Percocet, it's in Adderall. We're seeing fentanyl laced in every drug.
Even marijuana.
It's in every city, it's in every state, it's in every drug.
Dan, New York's a social city, right? And every place is in our area, in the tri-state. If I'm having people over, let's say I'm going to have 10, 15, 20, 50 people over to the house for a backyard barbecue. Is this Narcan product, is this something I should have at my home because I don't know?
Very good question. According to our health commissioner, he says, yes, absolutely. I bought one. And what's sad is we don't only need it for parties at homes, but in schools, in daycares. This is basically a shot that you can take through your nose that will reverse the effects of an overdose. The city's trying to make it easier. We put up a story on our website right now, the main page, how to get a free kit. This cost about $45. I had to go to 3 different stores to find it because the first 2 were out of stock.
Where? Right here on the Upper West Side?
Right up here on the Upper West Side.
Wow.
There's also about a dozen different pharmacies throughout the tri-state that are offering free, so you can walk up. We have a list of that on our website as well. But if you buy it in the store, it's behind the counter. This was easier to buy than the Allegra D that I bought yesterday for my allergies, as you can hear.
So we talked about these elected leaders, they're holding this summit, they're trying to address this problem, right? What can our viewers, what can people who have families who may be throwing a party, who have friends who may use, like what can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, they say the number one thing is to buy this right here.
Right.
There's also something that we're seeing when you walk into bars and restaurants in New York City, fentanyl test strips. In fact, I have one right here. It's basically a test strip that you can buy if you know someone's going to do drugs. You can take off a piece of the drug, mix it with this strip. You can open up the package right here.
I've never seen
this. And it will let you know.
Never.
It will let you know if the drug has fentanyl inside of it. But one of the problems is the health commissioner is encouraging people to use these.
Right.
But if you talk to the DEA, they say it's troublesome because if you test a pill, take a Percocet pill, part of it might not have fentanyl.
Oh, I see.
But the other part may have fentanyl.
That's what you meant by the term hotspot, which
Correct.
I didn't understand when you
Right.
said it, but now I get it. So now, are we talking about only drugs, and forgive me for not being smart enough to know the answer to this question, but only drugs that someone would buy on the street or online or something, not drugs that I would go get my pharmacy. So, or if I'm buying pot at a marijuana dispensary, that's okay.
That's a very good question. That's the second most common question I get, actually. This has nothing to do with pharmacies. This is something you're buying over the street.
Okay.
And you just don't know. As those mothers said, there's no such thing as safe experimentation. I know we can say it over and over again, but that's the moral of their story.
No, it's just crushing to hear from those
man.
moms.
We could have you for the rest of
I
this
know,
hour.
all day.
There's so many more questions to ask.
And there's a lot of debate about these. This is in our special 2 milligrams fatal dose you can find on the main page of our website.
Absolutely.
We will be watching
We'll
it.
be watching. Thank
Dan
you,
Croft.
Dan. You've been at this for a long time.
Thank you for shining a light on this problem.
Absolutely.
Thank you.